Hello there, this is Unsung with GameLeap, and today we're going to be teaching you all about EZREAL. EZREAL has always been and will always be a staple marksman in League of Legends. No matter the meta, EZREAL will always have a shoe-in. This flexible, spell-slinging pretty boy has infinite carry potential when played correctly, and now it's time for me to teach you how. If you want to learn more, subscriptions are currently 50% off on the GameLeap website. That means hundreds of champion-specific videos, lesser-known mechanics, and general gameplay tips, all waiting to be discovered at the touch of your fingertips. Go check it out this instant to step up your knowledge. However, before we begin, we're going to be breaking this guide down into parts: tricks and combos, mistakes, fighting, and itemization. Now let's get started with the cool stuff. EZREAL will forever and always have a large variance of situational combos and niche tricks. There are quite a few cancels, ways to detect stealth, and automatically aimed skill shots, and so forth. Now that you've seen a few examples, let's explain why some of this happens. You can displace yourself during your ulti's channel and the projectile still comes out. This is most realistically achievable with flash and is most useful during the laning phase or those really neck and neck team fights where you're living on pixels. You can cast your ulti and then flash out of the initial area, causing you and the projectile to come from different places. This is pretty confusing to look at but very simple to do. Your initial cast location remains the same regardless of the area you end up or your orientation afterwards. All of this is done by casting your ulti and then hitting flash during the startup frames before the channel actually finishes. This allows for additional damage in combos, cool ways to flash away and break vision, and amazing escape kills. The utility of this used in combos is as such. Now let's combine this with the animation cancels EZREAL already has in his kit, such as auto Q, W auto Q, and so on. As you know, EZREAL's W highlights champion targets for his E, allowing him to hit targets that are further away or in a mini-wave with 100% accuracy. We can combine this mechanic with our next trick to ensure maximum damage and maximum accuracy. EZREAL's E is a gap closer, which allows you to highlight a position and then deal damage upon arrival. This ability can be extended with flash or even used to juke skill shots if you flash during the initial cast before it completes. If you want to maximize your distance and also dodge a skill shot such as more Q, Gen W, or Ash Arrow, this is how you do that. You flash upon E's completion and only after the completion to get maximum distance. Now what happens if you flash during the E's cast? It causes a massive distraction in visual flare, making you incredibly hard to track if you need to bait a certain spell. Look closely now. We flash to the side, but we always end up where the cursor was during the initial cast. This little maneuver is incredibly useful when you need to land a killing blow against Yasuo, Yone, Nidalee, and the like, anything with really thin hitboxes on their important skill shots. These champions will more than likely throw out a desperation skill shot in your general area when you're already somewhere else. I don't recommend using this unless you have somebody completely downloaded and know exactly how they're going to react. Now what happens when we use E, flash during the cast time with our cursor further than the E's initial cast area? It actually extends your E's effective range and blink distance. This is different from our first example because the projectile actually follows through, thus ensuring that you gain both the movement and damage aspects of the spell. The timing on this isn't as strict as the first E trick, as you can flash during any point of your E's channel and still extend the range as long as your cursor is outside of your initial range indicator. Okay, now we're learning a little bit more about EZREAL's E, but you're still having difficulty lining up that perfect Q after a blink. What should you do about that? Well, if you're not about to spend 100 games learning the ins and outs of EZREAL, I have a little sheet for you. What if I told you that you don't actually have to aim EZREAL's Q, W, or R after an E? Watch closely at EZREAL's position as we E. Is there one common factor regarding all of these E's here? EZREAL always ends up facing the nearest target. As long as your E's projectile goes off and you delay your next spellcast, your skill shot will always hit whatever EZREAL is facing. However, there is a trick to this. You can only cast your E within this little range indicator here. Anything outside of this and it gets a little bit wonky, and the reason for this is that EZREAL actually does not end up throwing a projectile unless you are within this range. The second that you start using this to escape, it changes targets. The easiest way to explain this interaction has to do with where your cursor is facing. As you can see, my cursor is directly below my model if I E within this range here, but if I E over here, my cursor is to the side, meaning that my skill shot will shoot to the side instead of directly in front of me at this target in Fog of War. This is why it is so incredibly important to only use this skill inside the range indicator if you are looking to shoot the homing skill shots. This has to do with how EZREAL positions himself after shooting his E's projectile. Now there are a couple ways for you to mess this up, and the very common one that I see all the time has to do with moving your mouse. The second you cast your E, you do not want to touch your mouse. Your mouse doesn't exist. If you move it even a tiny little bit, this will whiff. As you can see here, my mouse sensitivity is kind of high, so sometimes if I don't give it enough time, I'll end up whiffing. Ezreal always ends up facing the nearest target as long as your E's projectile goes off and you delay your next spell cast. Pretty cool, right? It gets better. Remember when I said the nearest target? This includes units that you don't have vision of. If you have a general idea of where a champion is, as long as you E inside of your initial range indicator that shows up, when you click or hover E, you will hit them 100% of the time. Now you have a way to fight back against that Akali and Shroud, that Shaco that tries to Q onto you, Kha'Zix coming in with R. This works against every true stealth in the game. Let's talk about this a little bit more and re-explain everything. First and foremost, this technique only works if you remain inside the initial range indicator. Anything outside of this will cause it to whiff. If you input your Q or R during your blink, it will whiff. The reason this works is once again because Ezreal faces the nearest target in his E's radius or even at the very end of it. However, if you are within the initial indicator, it lines up Ezreal directly on top of your mouse cursor. As you can see, any small movement, click, or input buffer causes this interaction to come to a halt, thus making the skill shot whiff. You really do have to be a bit patient, but if you do, you are rewarded with an aimbot. So remembering this, let's jump into our burst combos. R, E, flash, auto, W, auto, Q. All of these examples are going to be done without bonus attack speed, so you can see that you could do this sort of thing all game. Next up, we have W, E, auto, Q, auto. If you don't need to ensure that your E lands, E, auto, W, auto, Q, auto. R, E, auto, W, Q, auto. These are your bread and butter engage or burst combos, most commonly used in lane or Drake fights from out of vision. Now we're on to mistakes. Ezreal as a champion is so much more than a sit on the edge of a fight, slowly trying to whittle people down with Qs. You are a powerhouse of raw damage. There is not a single utility skill in this kit, so don't play like there is. I want you guys going ham, always going for big damage, always maximizing every item, every cooldown, every summoner. Ezreal is at his best spell slinging and reacting mid-fight, not playing like a support behind everyone. This is the largest and most glaring mistake I see from both new and veteran Ezreal players. Get in there, hit your skill shots, win games. That is and will always be your game plan. Obviously, don't run in where you don't have to, but otherwise, get in, stay in, slay in. You're not out until the fight is over, win or lose. And this goes for every single ADC in the game, not just Ezreal. Another mistake I see all the time goes back to earlier. We talked about wanting to Q before you E, why not E in and then Q? Doing E first, then Q makes your E come up a full second later than it does if you Q and then E while your Q is still in the air. A second is a massive deal on a champion like this. If your Q is gonna hit, make it count. Next mistake we see is buying tier on first base. Depending on how the game is playing out, this can be both a good and bad idea. Some games you want to base and buy a pickaxe and immediately go into Sheen, others you want to buy tier into Sheen or a tier into pickaxe. How do you know what to buy? If you're passively farming, not really able to get into auto range, picking up CS as you can, tier is the way to go. Everyone throwing a party in the bot lane, smacking AD carry pinatas? Embrace the fiesta, go for that pickaxe in Sheen. This is up to you to judge. If you are an aggressor or constantly being forced into fights, damage is the way to go and always will be. Moving on, we have laning and team fighting. During lane, it is important to remember that Ezreal is actually not that weak as long as you hit everything. Haha, Unsung said just don't miss, forehead. This is true, don't miss. But you will, and that's okay. If you lose a fight because you missed a single skill shot, that doesn't mean give up and go back into AFK farm mode. Ezreal is still really strong from behind even before that 3-item power spike that we've all come to love. On to smaller things. This is the biggest thing to remember during laning phase. Onto smaller parts of lane, you're going to want to harass with Q, proccing mana flow every chance you get, so you hit that mana regen and mana pull earlier, while also queuing spare CS that you can't reach safely. Anything that is out of auto attack range or you're going to get harassed for going for, you're going to want to queue that. You're going to want to harass where you can, saving E for either massive damage or getting away from massive damage. If you're laning against a Nautilus or Blitz, you're basically not allowed to hit your E until their hooks are down, because you can cancel them of course. E is either a full commit or a full disengage spell, use it as such. That means no picking up cannon minions under tower with E unless you know that you are completely safe to do so. I see Ezreal players all the time using E for no reason and getting instantly blown up. Don't be one of them. Look for burst combos between waves, trying to hit that R, W, E, auto, Q combo to initiate a full out fight or wait for follow up before going in. Now onto team fighting, go in, stay in, slay in. There are a few ways fights play out in League of Legends. Either both teams, front to back, you deal with the flank, or you both fight with a flank. EZREAL can flank. You don't have to front to back if you have an assassin comp. You can get picks too. If they have a tank and you have a tank, that means that you don't dive though. You front to back it, burn their tank before yours goes down, and then you go ham on that backline. EZREAL is explosive when he has items while also being very hard to kill. Keep this in mind next time you get into a team fight at Drake or Baron. It is okay to go for a risky pick as long as it works out. You are incredibly tanky, so you could dive the enemy ADC most of the time. Same thing with their assassins, don't be afraid to assassinate an assassin. And as we conclude our guide, we'll be going over various builds, runes, and the like. So stick with me here if you're having trouble itemizing. The best itemization for EZREAL is ever-changing and allows for flexibility during every meta. If there is ever an item that is out of line, EZREAL will be the first to abuse it. Perfect example, Death Stance. Currently, EZREAL's meta build is Muramana into Triforce, finishing Lucidity Boots, Death Stance or Blade of the Ruin King, with Death Stance having the higher win rate, then either a Mortal Reminder or a GA. A full build looks like Muramana, Triforce, Lucidity Boots, Death Stance, Blade of the Ruin King, Guardian Angel. My preferred build is usually Muramana, Iceborne Gauntlet, Ninja Tabis, Death Stance, Blade of the Ruin King into Guardian Angel. The AP build is Muramana, Iceborne, Sork Shoes, Luden's Echo, Gunblade, Zanya's, or Deathcap. Iceborne and Tabis is the build that you want into Zed, Talon, full AD comps, you know the drill. If you're being dove by a Rengar, this is the build for you. If you're still having trouble living, you can swap out Mortal Reminder or GA for a Zanya's as your last item. Even as a full AD build, Zanya's is still an amazing item to have on EZREAL due to his hybrid scalings. You do not lose any damage buying this item. Now onto runes. The meta page is Precision Primary, Conqueror, Presence of Mind, Legend Bloodline, Coup de Grace, with Inspiration, Biscuits, and Cosmic Insight. Minor runes are Attack Speed, Adaptive Force, and Armor. My favorite page is Precision Primary, Conqueror, Presence of Mind, Legend Alacrity, Coup de Grace, with Sorcery Secondary, Transcendence, and Mana Flow Band. Minor runes are the same as above. No matter your build path, your max order is always going to be Q, E, W, R, taking points in R whenever available. If you're serious about wanting to step up your game, head on over to the GameLeap website right now. Currently, subscriptions are 50% off, and this means that you get access to hundreds of the highest quality champion guides written by challenger coaches such as myself for half price. We have the insider tips and tricks, general how to play guides, as well as in-depth VOD breakdowns teaching you how to carry every single type of game. There are years of experience put into our courses, all geared towards helping you climb rank after rank after rank. What are you still doing here? Go get started right now and start smashing your matches. Once again, this is Unsung with GameLeap. Thank you all for watching, and remember, be better, not because you're bad, but because you can always improve. Have a wonderful day.